everybody. Jackie Woodside here again, the founder of the Curriculum for Conscious Living and the Conscious Living Summit. Oh my goodness, I could not be happier and more excited today to bring to the Conscious Living Summit stage one of my dearest friends, longest standing colleagues, and a spiritual teacher that has just touched and changed my life. The Reverend Shipley Allinson is the founding minister of Unity on the River in Amesbury, Massachusetts, started her ministry basically in her bedroom with a small study group and grew that ministry to be one of the largest Unity churches on the East Coast, for which I am forever grateful. I served as Shipley's board president for so long that I forgot that I was not a staff member at that church, and we had a delightful run together. Shipley is also an accomplished equestrian, manages her horse farm, and helps people rise their vibration through horses and working with horses. So Shipley, thank you so much for saying yes to this. I know you've retired from ministry, but really your ministry never ends. So I'm just so glad to be here with you today. So I want to dive in today, Shipley. You have so much to say about consciousness and living a conscious life. You've given thousands of talks over your, 15 years in ministry? How many years were you leading the Unity Church?
20 years.
20 years in ministry. So, I don't even know if we added up how many talks you gave, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, how many times you've thought about and you wrapped your head around and found ways to weave in new themes about basically, every talk you gave was some variation on living a conscious life. So let's just start very high level. I like to just kind of start with the very basics, and then we'll drill down and dive in on this a little bit more. What does it mean to you? What does conscious living mean to you? How do you understand that phrase, conscious living? What does that mean to you?
Before I start, Jackie, I just need to say a word about you. As Jackie said, she was my board president for 8 years, I believe, and she totally transformed the consciousness of the church. Really, your influence was so prevalent. And so, she also is a wonderful speaker, as you all know, and she spoke at the church many times. So she was a teacher, but just her being, her way of being, and the way you led board meetings so that we could understand and we could transform within that small group because of your vibration and your energy. And so I would never have been the minister that I was if it hadn't been for Jackie Woodside. We made a great team.
Thank you, Shipley. It was a delightful time in both of our careers. I really enjoyed it.
One of the highlights, yeah. So what does it mean to live a conscious life? In the Webster Dictionary, conscious means awake and aware. And so my rhetorical question is, awake and aware of what?
Yeah.
And the first thing that comes to mind, which I think is number one, of course, is awake and aware of the vibration of spirit that is all around, in and through us all the time. I believe that we live in a vibrational universe. This the whole universe, in the beginning, it says in the book of John, in the beginning was the word, and that can be translated as in the beginning was the vibration, because vibration is the creative energies of the world. And if science now knows that if you go down into the body and you dive deep and you go through all the tissues and into the cells, into the neutrons and the electrons and the protons, you're going to find what looks like empty space, but they know it's vibration. They know it's vibration now. That is the creative energy of the universe. So my thinking here is all creation begins in darkness, and it all begins in those cells. And that is our job to become a conscious being, or to live a conscious life, is to be present to that vibration. Michael Beckwith, who is one of my favorite teachers, the founder of Agape Church International in California, he says our greatest ability is our availability. That we need to make ourselves available to the Spirit of the living God, that vibration. And then we are carried, we are supported, we are given what we need when we pay attention.
So great, but you can't make yourself available if you're unconscious. Like how do you make yourself available to spirit to be used, right? It's through being awake, paying attention. Anything more you want to say on that?
Yeah, well, to be still and know And it says in Psalm 46, be still. One of the hardest things for us to do, especially in this busy world, is to be still, to be present, and to make ourselves available. Prayer, meditation, doing visioning, whatever we have to do so that we are centered in the awareness of the Spirit.
So for you, conscious living means awake and aware, making yourself available by being still and opening yourself up to the vibration of spirit. Am I getting that right?
That's right, but that's only the beginning.
Okay, say more.
The other half of my rhetorical question. So awake and aware to, and I have an acronym here, WFAT, is awake and aware to our words, our feelings, our actions, and our thoughts. WFAT. Everything that we do, everything that we say carries a vibration. And we need to just be in that consciousness and awareness that whenever I'm talking to somebody, whenever I'm doing something, whenever I'm extending love, I am being the vibration of God. And Michael Beckwith also said, we all here on earth have the same purpose. And that purpose is to reveal God. We all have our own unique and individual missions, but we all have that same purpose.
I teach that exact same thing. I love that. I say we're here to grow in consciousness back to the divinity from which we came, and basically to reveal God. That is our purpose, the purpose of humanity, and that we each have our own individual mission inside of that, your own God seed expression. I love that.
We're so aligned. In this. There's a wonderful song. It's again Agape and Ricky Byers. It's called "I Had a Revelation." It says, "I had a revelation one night when I was in prayer that God loves me and God needs me. God needs me to be the hands and the face and the vibration of the Spirit." And I just love that when I heard it. And then it goes, and now that's why I know I'm alive. That's why I'm alive. Because God needs me, and that's why I'm alive. Right.
You are here Godding.
That's a revelation. That's a huge revelation.
I call that Godding on earth. I like to turn God into a verb rather than a noun. Right? We are here Godding right now. This is it. This is what it looks like. It's so great. So Shipley, are you always conscious? Or do you have moments that you go unconscious? And if you go unconscious, then how do you know? Like, how do you know if I'm living a conscious life or an unconscious life? How do you know the difference?
I know the difference because of how I feel. Basically, I feel low. I feel like a low vibration or a low energy.
Okay.
Also, I have intentions for my life, and I state my intentions daily of how I would like to be. And when I look out at the universe and it's not coming back the way I intended it, I go, well, that's interesting. And I think I have to remind myself that this is a friendly universe. We are here on purpose. It's not about punishment. It's not about karma. It's about us getting information. The universe is continually giving us information. And sometimes it doesn't look very pretty, but it's like a cosmic 2x4 or a wake-up call or something. Oh, wait a minute. I wasn't in that vibration. I wasn't in that alignment. So I'm being called back. Because the universe wants us to reveal ourselves as the highest level that we can get. And so it will always support us in doing that. Right? All things work together for good. All things work together for good. It's hard to believe.
I love that.
Sometimes it's so hard.
So you started this by saying one of the ways you know you've gone unconscious is that you feel low or low vibration. Say more about that. What do you mean that you, quote, feel low? And then the second thing you said was you have intentions that you state every day. Beautiful way of living consciously, by the way. I have intentions that I state every day. That's conscious living. And when I don't see them coming back to me, I know that I'm not a vibratory match for that. So it's beautiful. So I'm just pulling out these nuggets. They're so brilliant. But when you say, like, I have a low vibration, some people might be newer to this conversation of conscious living. What does that look like? If we were watching the movie of that, or if we were in your body, what would that actually be like? What does it feel like?
It's a form of depression.
Yeah.
I would
Okay. So
say.
you feel like a heaviness, a sadness.
Yeah.
Do you have negative thoughts in that state?
Yes. Oh, the negative thoughts. So I think the hardest thing for us to manage is our thinking. Our thoughts are like sheep, and they want to go wandering. In the middle of the night, I swear it's like a heat missile, a heat guided missile, just a whoa, negative thought, blah 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 blah. So yeah, or when you've gossiped about somebody or you've done something that it's not on your highest level, and you know it and you recognize it. It just feels like your heart has a sickness or a heaviness. I don't want to be that way. That's not who I am.
Yeah, I totally get that. I so hear you about that managing negative thinking. It's what I teach a lot about, what we all who are committed to conscious living. So let's just go there for a bit, because you're right. Managing your thoughts is probably one of the most challenging things of the human condition. So do you want to dive in there, say anything more?
Yeah, and realizing how powerful they are, the thoughts. I listened to Esther Hicks the other night, who speaks for Abraham. She had a wonderful practice, and it was when you find yourself before you go to bed and your mind's going and doing all the negative thinking, and you try to change it and nothing happens. Wake up in the morning, our tendency is to say, oh, what was I worrying about last night? And then you go right back into it. And she says, every morning you have a reset. You have the opportunity for a reset. You just start right in on the prayers. Oh, and they're all positive, high vibration prayers. I see my life. I love my life. This is the greatest life. I see myself doing such and such. And, you get a vision out there of what's the possibility for your life today, just today, and all the things that are coming, not all the negative, not all the fear, the worry, the doubt, which I tend to do, about how it's going to be. So I have a lot of practices, though. Do you want to talk
Yes,
about it?
I'd like to hear a couple of them, sure.
Okay, sure. Well, I had a friend who worked at our church, and Sam Engel, and every time I would say something negative, she would say, would you like to change that thought? It's really good to have a partner that reminds you every once, although sometimes you want to slap them. But cancel. Okay, so I say that there's the short road or the long road. The first road would be the short road would be just say cancel right away. But the long road will take you to Ho'oponopono. And some of you may know it's a Hawaiian forgiveness ritual. And it begins by calling in love. You say, I love you. It doesn't matter. You're not loving something in particular. You're inviting love into the energy field. I apologize for thinking that thought. Whoa. So it's apologizes to change your mind, to, forgiveness is about changing your mind. It's metanoia, it's about faith. Change your mind, because you don't want those vibrations going out in the universe. You don't want them to carry. So I apologize for creating those thoughts. Please forgive me. And I ask that those thoughts be transmuted. Those are 4 lines. I love you. Apologize for thinking those thoughts. Please forgive me. And I ask those thoughts be transmuted. So they're not having that energy out in the world. They're not creating my universe according to my negative thinking.
Yeah. For people who don't understand those thoughts being transmuted, can you say a little bit more about that?
It's like they can be dissolved, absolutely dissolved into this realm of no thingness. There's nothing, it doesn't have any effect.
So the vibratory pattern dissipates and goes away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Gratitude. Jackie can say a lot about gratitude. Gratitude is one of the greatest elixirs there is for changing a vibration. If you've been in a negative place, to just start saying all the things. You don't have to say things that you see already. These are things that you imagine in your world. I am so happy and grateful for my health. I am so happy and you don't have to say one. Mary Marcy, she has this practice. I'm so happy and grateful now that, and you list all the things that you would like to see in your life that haven't happened yet. But I'm so happy and grateful now that I've found the perfect house, that I've found the perfect relationship, that whatever I'm so happy and grateful now. And your vibration just gets lifted up, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Being grateful in advance.
Being
grateful in advance is what creates the vibratory pattern, the vortex for that thing to come into your life.
Vortex. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
It's so great. Shipley, these are great practices. So the practice of cancel, practice of gratitude. What was the other one?
I'm so happy and grateful now.
I'm so happy and grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ho'oponopono.
And Ho'oponopono.
Say that word. Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono.
Just even saying the word.
Yeah.
And then going through those 4 steps. So what? So you do Ho'oponopono just as kind of not like you have to sit down and do that practice, but it's just kind of in the background part of your consciousness. So these are the ways that when you catch yourself or feel yourself in that negative thinking, that low vibratory pattern, these are the things that help you shift and guide and direct, move yourself to a higher level.
Right.
Bring yourself back to a conscious living.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we're talking, I love this question. And I just want to play around with it a little bit. We're talking about conscious living, which begets the notion of consciousness. And one of my passions for having this Conscious Living Summit is that there's so many teachers out there teaching about consciousness, but no real clear definition of what that actually means. So how do you understand the notion of consciousness?
Well, I'd like to hear yours because as I said, being awake and aware. So
being awake and aware. Okay. Yeah. So I actually define it as not as awareness. Conscious and aware, I think, can be kind of synonymous, but consciousness, I think, is a little bit different. So I say that awareness is your access to your ability to observe your consciousness, and that your consciousness is the vibratory pattern that gets created by your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. So your inner world of belief, emotion, attitude, and thought, which I also have an acronym that spells BEAT, or the A could be actions as well. You had that in your acronym. I like that, actually. So your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, or actions and thoughts create the vibration that you're living in. Yes. That is how I use the word consciousness. It is your vibe, your vibratory pattern, and being conscious of your consciousness, or, so awareness, I say, is your access to your ability to observe and elevate your consciousness at any given moment.
Right. So you're aware of your consciousness.
You're aware of your consciousness. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're very familiar with Dr. David Hawkins.
I am. He's influenced my teaching a lot.
Yeah, the levels of consciousness and power versus. So he actually did another study on what things in the universe bring our power down low and what things lift us up. And this is said by Michael Beckwith again, so I don't have it on writing, but he said people who do spiritual practices consistently for 5 years or more are not affected by all those, like the cell phones and heavy metal music, and it doesn't come in. It does not come nigh their dwelling place, as Psalm 91 says. Yeah, I mean, wow.
That is amazing to hear. David Hawkins teaches that one person who resonates at a high enough vibratory pattern in consciousness can, in the level of spiritual master, can transmute the negative vibratory energy of an entire city.
Wow.
So one person who is truly an awakened conscious being. So, because if mass consciousness is at this kind of below the level of survival, ability to keep ourselves on the planet, if mass consciousness is anabolic, say, or I'm sorry, catabolic, so it's life destroying, why haven't we imploded? And David Hawkins' answer for that is because all it takes is one spiritual being who can transmute the vibratory pattern of an entire city. So the more of us, I say, the more any one of us raises in consciousness, all of humanity expands and elevates and transforms. So, that's one of my motivations for doing this Conscious Living Summit, because I want people to awaken to the fact that the more we focus on raising our vibration, living a more conscious life, the more that we have the chance of creating heaven on earth, and really creating a world that works for everyone.
Oh,
So, Shipley, you've touched, I want to say millions of people's lives in the 20 years that you did ministry. Now, maybe you didn't have a million people sitting in front of you in the church, but I think about that ripple effect, and each person that you touch, so many of your congregants went on to become teachers and speakers themselves. I'm just one of those people. So I think about the ripple effect and how many millions of people that your life has touched. So I have to wonder, have you always been this way? Like, did you pop out like awake and aware? And, so what has been your kind of your spiritual journey toward awakening?
Well, no, I was always a searcher.
Yeah.
I look at pictures of myself as a little girl, and I'm frowning and looking around like, this doesn't make sense to me. Why doesn't it make sense to me? So, then I was raised in the Episcopal Church, and I was fascinated with it. But when I became about 14, it didn't make sense to me. I was not getting any answers. So I kind of went off on a tangent then, boys, and went to college and fell in love with a party boy and kind of really lost my spiritual center. Until one day I woke up and I said to him, that person you married, that really wasn't me. Dear. Very embarrassing. But anyway, then I fell in love with somebody who did TM, and my whole world got rocked. He was doing transcendental meditation in the 70s, opened me up to the realm of pure potentiality, that I could transcend my thoughts and go and connect with the spirit. Along that line of helping cities, I understand that groups of transcendental meditators go to cities that have a lot of crime, and the crime rate goes way down. So it's very, very powerful. Anyway, that led me to, then so I did TM for many, I still do TM. I still have my mantra. A family member was an addict, alcoholism, and the 12-step programs, were so fulfilling in teaching about forgiveness, about surrender, about being present.
It's such a prescription for conscious living, isn't it? The 12 steps. Yeah, it's a wonderful prescription for conscious living.
Yeah. And that led to somebody from a 12-step program introduced me to Unity. And that totally rocked my world, absolutely. So then I started studying all these principles. And I have to say, the greatest teacher in my whole life was becoming a minister, because I had to be accountable.
Right.
I could not teach things that I didn't believe. And I could not ask my congregation to do things that I wasn't doing.
Yeah.
Prayer, meditation, tithing, unless I was tithing, I couldn't ask them to tithe. So
how does tithing fit into this conversation? Because I do like talking about consciousness and money. I wrote a book called Money Vibe. So in your understanding, Shipley, because I know there's a lot of mixed views out there about the role of tithing. And again, just a quick aside for people who maybe haven't been exposed to this thinking, tithing is giving 10% of your income to the source of your spiritual nourishment. So giving away 10% of your income consciously to where you're being spiritually fed. So Shipley, how does that resonate for you as part of a conscious living, a path toward conscious living of tithing?
Well, if this is all about vibration, when one tithes and tithes consciously in love, it lifts your vibration and opens up flow. It prevents being blocked. Whenever I am blocked, I go, oh, did I not tithe this week? Or did I tithe this month? Because I know that will open up the door. It just, the flow of energy that moves because of tithing. And if you do it as a regular practice, that energy just keeps moving, and you're blessing others out in the world. Wherever you're sending it to a place where you believe in and you trust and it's doing God's work. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually some really interesting social science to back up what you're saying. There was a study done of people being given a certain amount of money, and they could choose, and it wasn't like a game changer. Like you know, 25 bucks or something like that. And you can choose to spend it on yourself, or you can choose to give it away. And people were like they had a happiness inventory or quiz or something like that before the experiment and then after the experiment. And the people who gave their money away had much higher scores on their sense of happiness and sense of self and well-being than the people who chose to take the 25 bucks and, you know, buy a coffee and dinner or whatever. Those who spent it on themselves had a low, if in our language right now, had a lower vibratory pattern than the people that chose to give the money away.
Wait, do I ever know that?
What'd you say?
I know that in my, you know, when I'm just taking care of myself, I feel blocked. Gotta
Yeah.
get it out there.
Yeah, exactly. There is something about that, like holding on, that really constricts the vibratory energy of life itself, so that you can't have that sense of flow when you're not in the consciously participating in the flow of giving and receiving. It's believing that more will always come, so it's easy to let go.
Yeah, and it always does. What goes around comes around. It just always flows to you.
Beautiful. So go back to your story. I'm sorry, I derailed you a little bit there.
Well, I did want to say, when I stopped ministry, it became a lot more challenging to stay in my, stay on the path and not fall off. I presently live with my family. My son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter live on the same property, and my daughter lives with me, and none of them do the same practices and have the same spiritual beliefs. So that can be challenging. You know, I remember when I was in Unity, and I couldn't imagine starting a meeting without prayer. It was like, how would you do a meeting if you didn't have prayer beforehand? You know, how do you get centered? So I became the president of a writing club, and I'm like, I can't start these meetings with, so I did centering, you know, and they all were fine with that. As long as I didn't call it prayer, they were fine.
Don't call it prayer, right? Yeah.
But
and
yeah, so, you know, well, the only element about that is I have a group of spiritual friends. We meet every week, and another one single friend that I meet with every week. To remind me, you know, they call me out and they support me and they love me, and it's so important to create a group if you don't have a church. Or
so you're still creating spiritual community, even though you're not hosting a ministry any longer.
Right.
You're still creating spiritual community, which is also, you know, a central component of conscious living. It's hard to stay conscious all the time when you're just in your own little world. And the mainstream culture is not going to support our awakening. Mainstream culture is going to gravitate you toward, numbing through drugs and alcohol and social media and shopping and spending money and political strife. And, our world is very geared toward the unconscious. In fact, one of my other motivations for doing the summit is I feel like, conscious people think they're living consciously today if they're shopping at Whole Foods and going to a yoga class, that conscious living has become this what you do rather than who you are. So I'm really, really grateful, Shipley, that what you're focusing on is the vibratory pattern of spirit being expressed through and as you. It's a beautiful definition of conscious living.
I probably got from you, all this stuff about vibration. I think, probably came through in your Vibe Tribe.
Yeah, I love that. My Facebook page, the Vibe Tribe. Yeah.
We've been talking about vibrations for a very long time.
We have. Yeah. No, it is. To me, it's a way of, all of my passion lives at, and I know for you as well, lives at the intersection of science and spirituality. Yeah. I say I'm a science and spirituality geek, and that's what I want to bring to the world, that there is this marrying now of spiritual philosophy and scientific knowledge that can elevate our experience of life to bring us closer and closer to heaven on earth. Yeah. So Shipley, a last question that I've asked every person that I've interviewed is simply this, and I'm just curious your thought on it. What is your hope for humanity?
Wow. Beautiful question. My hope for humanity be. I think people could understand the idea of love better than vibration. Yeah. And to me, it's all the same. Love and vibration. but if we let's have a prayer of seeing humanity connected with their heart, connected with love, connected with compassion. I used to hate the word compassion because I thought it meant you had to be sorry for somebody. But it's not. It's entering into their place and understanding who they are and how they are being, and being able to stand and be present to them without falling into it or being taken over by it. So my hope for humanity is the awakening of love and compassion. And,
So great.
oh, I don't understand it. I don't understand all the anger and angst and the fighting but I see it. That's the vibration that's around the planet. And,
Yeah.
oh, can we cover it? Can we cover it with angel wings?
Yeah. Can we cover it with angel wings? I love that.
One step at a time, one person at a time. Thank you for doing this summit, because it's going to touch so many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll really hear it.
Yeah. And lift us up, and bring us back to the knowing that we are all one. I love what you're saying, that looking at the strife and loving it, embracing it, having that be a part of our experience in life.
Yes.
So, Shipley, thank you so much for being on the Conscious Living Summit. I know you're going to be leading a meditation for us on our live event on September 18th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you for that in advance. I look forward to that time with you. And I look forward to watching you continue to grow and bring forth your intentions in your life and in your family. And it's just a blessing to be your friend and your protege. So thank you for your impact on my life.
Just one more thing about spiritual practices. Listen to teachers. And I've mentioned a few, Michael Beckwith, Eckhart Tolle, Jackie Woodside. She's masterful. Everybody be there on the 18th.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Love you, Lenny, darling.